have for this item. Please go ahead.
Okay. So I think the kind of the term emergency funds has kind of changed a little bit. Right now I'm asking for money for our budget, requesting 80,000 because we have an increase in supplies. And it does say it's emergency funds needed for critical supplies. Our supplies have already been disrupted, probably due to the tariffs, right? And it's our whole global supply chain is disrupted. And that makes it really difficult for us to obtain the critical supplies we need to continue to operate the coroner's office. Our representative for the supplies has already urged us to stock up for several reasons. First off is the supply chain decrease or possibly stopping, which would be disastrous. They have urged us to stock up. So second is that other companies are already stockpiling our supplies, which decreases the supplies that are available to us. And third is the increase in pricing, and we've already seen an increase in our supply cost. As of May, we already spent over half of our budgeted amount for the year. And every year in December, we're always short funds to get our supplies, and we're trying to struggle and borrow and, you know, people to try to give us stuff. So to counteract that issue we're having with budget amount is to make sure that we have the supplies we need in stock. And so I am requesting the ADK to help us with that supply of critical items. I am so staff recommends that this agenda item be brought to future hearing, requesting that the Board of County Commissioners supplement the appropriations for the 2025 budget for Coroner's Office and General Fund to the ongoing amount of 80,000.
And Dr. Cannon, thank you so much for that presentation. And we can see it on the screen that SPA did review this. And this was going to be my question, that it's out of the normal budget cycle. And you've talked about the reasons for that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to begin hearing similar sorts of issues from other departments that rely heavily on resources and materials. And there is the recommendation that any request for ongoing budget increases be accommodated through the budget development process. I think, though, for the reasons that you have discussed, it makes sense, and I'm certainly open to supporting this request. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions on this one?
And maybe not so much for Dr. Cannon, but I am curious. I know that as a county, we have staff looking into the effect of executive orders and the tariffs and everything on our budget as a whole and everything. And sounds like this is, and we had the presentation last week or the week before that the budget folks in the task force came to us. And again, this isn't so much Dr. Cannon, but I don't recall this being on the task force radar screen. I think it absolutely should be included in there, and also maybe just a note to the task force that there may be other departments and various elected officials coming to us with that. And we knew that. We knew there would be things popping up, and we can't anticipate everything. But I think we need to make sure that it's included in the work that our what are we calling that task?
That's right.
That's very clever.
But I mean, understandable. And so, but also would like to, say as much as possible, we want to stick to our normal budgeting procedures. And we are living in the blessing of may you live in interesting times. So.
Yeah, and part of me also wonders, the coroner's office is under the umbrella of public safety for Jefferson County. And I think about 1A funding as well. I mean, I'm fine since this is focused on our general fund, but that's another piece of this. And I think one of the things that we have to really think about strategically is all of these different funds, the dollars in those funds, and how we're smart about allocating them. So while I understand that every now and then there will be these one-offs, I just want to make sure we're thinking about the complete picture in the way that Commissioner Kerr talked about, Commissioner Zenzinger has talked about as well. Commissioner Zenzinger, any additional comments or questions on this one?
I think it's a little worrisome that it's happening so early in the year, in the budget year. We're only a couple months in and already experiencing the effects of this. So that doesn't bode well for the rest of the year. Secondly, I do believe that what you're describing is very similar to price gouging, and that is prohibited here in Colorado. So hopefully we're able to, in some substantial way, address the fact that there is some price gouging that is going on. And I do anticipate that the same thing will happen with regard to public health, for example.
Yes.
With their types of supplies. But it's absolutely critical to the functioning of your office. So I understand the request and I'm supportive.
If only our sheriff knew about it.
Yeah. Are you in support?
Yes.
And I'm in support as well. So all three in support.
Yay.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our treasurer, Jerry DiTullio. And Treasurer DiTullio is presenting 3 issues, beginning with the treasurer report for the first quarter, a request for a $10,000 increase in the postage budget, and then also a request for reallocation of additional revenue to overtime salaries for a special assessment project. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Treasurer, and if you'd like to introduce your team members too.
Yes, I will.
All right. And we have 30 minutes for this item.
So we're here on the first item is our investment portfolio quarterly report. Mark will be giving the report, but Mark is also going to be retiring soon and soonish. And so in succession planning, we've hired Nicole Bruce.
Welcome.
So she'll be shadowing and training and documenting everything for the next few months to get, right now it's all in Mark's head and my head, and that's not a good thing. So Nicole comes from CU Denver with a master's in finance and risk management and a bachelor's. And so she's been working in some finance now and with insurance companies and risk management. So we went through a lengthy interview process and she did really well. And we're looking forward to her taking over sometime early next year. So great. And Mark's, we still love him. Go for it.
Right, well, here we are again with our report that doesn't seem to change. You can see the breakdown of the securities we're holding there. The most noteworthy point, I suppose, is the chart on the bottom that shows the interest rate change from December 31st to March 31st of this year. The December line is the little faint gold one at the top, and the March line is the green one that is lower. And interest rates are a bit lower. We had a banner year last year. The last couple of years have been good for interest earnings. This year it's going to be coming down a bit. We're projecting there $22 million in cash earnings for the year. That's a pretty aggressive number. We may bump that down a little bit here next quarter. I kind of struggled with that for a while. I was going to put 18. Then I thought, oh no, well, when I add the numbers up, we could hit 22. But that's that's if things fall into place. There's expectations that interest rates are going to be coming down more this year. The story has been they're not coming down as much as people think, but they are coming down. They have come down, and they're expected to come down some more. So we're in sound financial shape, but we're not probably going to produce quite as much as we did last year. So with that, do you have any questions?
I don't. It's always so straightforward, which we appreciate, Mark. Make it very clear.
We have our liquid and some of our money market funds in C-Safe, just as an FYI. And we decided to go with a different group on, there's no employees at C-Safe. They're all contractors. Morgan Stanley, Elevate, which was Tim Kaufman and Bob Krug. They were administrative. We've terminated their contract and we went with Ridgeline Partners. And so they'll be managing the day-to-day that Tim and Bob used to do at Elevate. But it doesn't affect our rates or anything other than it's a new group managing. It's a better deal for the participants.
Great.
Less fees and more marketing to get more people involved in CSA.
Excellent.
So
Is there anything more on the first quarter report?
Just
you'd like to share with us?
I think the interest earned. So if you look at that, this is this year, that's 2025. So we've earned so far unaudited about 2.4 million. Well, 2,414,000 more or less. Last year at this time, it was 2,438,000. So right now we're on track with last year for April, January through April. So we'll see how it goes. Like Mark said, interest rates may come down and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So right now we're in good shape on the interest earned.
Well, thanks to Jeffco voters for the approval of 1A. This now no longer counts against our
Right.
Tabor cap.
All interest
so we
earned will
can
be used for.
reinvest it in public safety and infrastructure. Okay.
It also helps us invest more,
Mhm.
and it's best practice because then we know we have this money to invest in different bonds.
More consistency, more reliability. Great. Commissioners, do you have any questions on this issue before we move on to the request for 10,000?
No.
Okay.
We had for 10,000.
But
I'm going to hear about that one first.
Okay.
And do you want to go to the second item?
Sure. So Natalie was supposed to be here. I don't know where she's at, but I know you talk about mid budget
Yeah.
questions. So
Mhm.
we were going to request a $10,000 extra in postage last year, and our spot analyst said no because we wanted to see if 1A passed or not. We've been in the red on postage for the last couple of years, and the prediction is that postage is going to go up even more with the USPS. So we were asking for a $10,000 increase. We can cover all of our mailings. We have to do that 220,000 mailings at the beginning of the year, and then we'll have our delinquent tax mailing. So the 10,000 would keep us out of the red, and then that would just move forward. So what we're asking for is to update the budget now, even though we were going to do it at the beginning during the budget process for 2025, but SPA said no, wait until if 1A passed or not. So
But to be really clear, on 1A funding, it only goes into two categories. This category does not fit for 1A. It only goes to
I'm
public.
not talking about 1A.
But it may sound like that to some people. So just to clarify, I know you're not, but I want to clarify so there's no misunderstanding among people who are tuning into our meeting today that those 1A dollars only go to public safety and they only go to infrastructure.
So what I'm asking for is a budget amendment midterm, because we tried to do it in the last fall to supplement the postage. Otherwise, we're already in the red. So it would probably come out of the general fund.
And Commissioners, in the actual briefing paper itself, it does specifically state request from the general fund. Commissioner, thank you for underscoring the one
Thank you.
piece.
So again, it will come from the general revenue fund. And the recommendation from the staff is that an agenda item be brought to a future hearing requesting that the Board of County Commissioners supplement the appropriations for the 2025 budget for the Treasurer's Office and the general fund for the ongoing amount of 10,000. I'm comfortable with that. Commissioners, do you have any concerns or questions? That recommendation?
thumbs up.
Support?
Oh, thanks. Well, I want to clarify something, Commissioner. I wasn't saying use 1A money. What I was saying is that staff said, do not do anything with the budget until we know what the results are. So I knew it was coming from the general.
We have a third item on the agenda, which is request for reallocation of additional revenue to overtime salaries for special assessment projects.
Right. So we have a contract with Littleton Sewer. When I got to the county, we were inputting up to 9,000 tax liens a year at no cost or no revenue to the county. So we talked to Littleton Sewer, have a contract up to $12,000 for 9,000 spas or special assessments. For some reason, their software does not work adding, so they have a lot of people that have tax liens on their property, spa liens for the Littleton Sewer. So this year they had over 9,000. So there's a calculation in there. So we received an additional $3,000 of, I think it was $15,000 total. And we just wanted to make sure that you knew about it so we could put it in our salaries and wages overtime fund. The money's already been collected and all their tax liens have been added to the system. So it's just a matter of amending our budget internally so that, because it takes about 2 weeks of staff time, 8 hours a day to add these 15,000 entries.
Perfect. Any questions on this one?
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
So it's a reallocation of additional revenue, and where's the revenue coming from?
Oh, it's from Littleton Sewer District. So we have a contract with them. They actually pay us to do their work. So the contract says up to 9,000 entries we'll do for $12,000. Well, this year it was like almost 15,000 or 12,000, but it was 12,000. And so they paid an additional 3. So the 12,000 was budgeted. So we're asking to make sure that the 3,000 could stay and be budgeted also. The money's been collected. It's not coming out of the general fund or anything. It's coming from the Littleton Sewer District. So it's just amendment to show it in accounting, basically, and budgeting.
So the city of Littleton only has that one neighborhood that's within Jefferson County.
Littleton Sewer.
So, but it's also city of Littleton. So we're talking specifically about their sewer
Correct.
system. So it could be beyond just that neighborhood of the city of Littleton that's in Jeffco. The sewer might,
right.
the
Yeah,
sewer system.
wherever they're servicing, the Littleton Sewer. Now, I don't know if Littleton Sewer is part of the city of Littleton or it's a special district, but they don't have the staff or the software to actually do the tax liens themselves. So that's why we do it for them with a contract. So we've received the 12,000 every year for the last couple of years because when I first got here, there was no revenue from it. It was a lot of extra work for our staff. And then this year we had more because of the increase in liens.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, to me, it kind of sounds like spending authority, more or less, is that it's revenue neutral. It has to do with a contracted service. There's no additional impact to the budget, but it more or less you're requesting to go beyond what the spending authority currently is because of this extra work, and it is aligned with the revenue that is generated through the project.
Yeah, it's all defined in the contract with Littleton.
So I support it.
Support and Commissioner Curtis. All right, 3 thumbs up on that. Thanks so much
Thanks.
for being here. It's so nice to meet you. Mark, thanks for the update. Quarterly update, really
Nicole has to do the next week.
Good to see you all.
Is this your last one?
No, I'm just.
Oh, I was gonna say congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah. See you again soon.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Take care. Next up, we have Human Services Head Start Early Care and Education Grant, and we have Rachel Meixner. Rachel, am I pronouncing your last name? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Nice to see you. Welcome.
See you. Good morning. Rachel Meixner, Head Start Division Director. I'm here to request your approval to apply for and accept up to $100,000 in grant funds from the Colorado Gives Foundation to support the implementation of Bright Futures Roadmap strategies. The work that we do as a program aligns very closely, and so these funds would help with general operating, and it would also allow us to expand and enhance some of the services that we would be able to provide to children and families that don't currently fit within our budget.
Any, Yeah, I am as well.
Okay, no questions.
Yeah.
So,
We have 5 minutes for this one. You did it in 2. Thank you.
I mean,
Go get all the money.
Because we support, yeah.
we could grill you on stuff if you want, since you can't over here, but.
We'll save that for development and transportation.
Gotta go.
And we're here today to talk about our next agenda item on the new commercial hangar ground lease for Cutter Aviation, Colorado Springs. Welcome, Val and Eric.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you mentioned, we have a couple items. 2 are leases and another is an agreement for maintenance. And I'll hand it over to Eric, who will give us some more details.
Sure. So our first lease is a new commercial ground hangar lease for Cutter Aviation. In your packet, you should have a map of where that hangar is located on the airfield, as well as the leasehold boundaries for that facility. This hangar has been sold, and so it will be entering into a new 30-year lease with a 10-year option for renewal. It will generate about $83,000, a little less than $84,000 per year, and staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners support terminating the existing lease and approving the new lease and having the chair sign that at a future hearing. That's it for that one.
Any questions? Support?
Wait.
For one moment.
Oh,
Who supports
I
support?
No, I'm trying to learn how to read a map but I was like, wow, that's a big building. But now I see where it actually is. And I was thinking it was by where it says lease boundary, that big yellow square. I was thinking that was the whole thing. And I'm like, wait a second, you have cars parked on the runway. But I have now used my geography skills that I obtained long ago to figure out how to read this map. Thank you.
I can, I'll add outlet or inset lines or something.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine. It's just,
And you are in support.
yes, I'm a
Okay.
thumbs up. Thank you.
You have a next item?
All right, so the next one is same situation for Kryptonite. They're just a corporation at the airport. They are buying a hangar at the airport, so we'd be terminating the existing lease, entering into a new 20-year term lease for a 10-year renewal period for a little less than $30,000 a year. Staff recommends the BCC approve and sign that at a future hearing.
Any questions on this one?
No questions, thumbs up.
Support? All right, all 3 in support.
Okay, so our third item is going to be a little bit different than that hangar. It will be a little bit more wordy, unfortunately. So what we're going to be doing today is considering a maintenance agreement for the Verve Verve development at the airport or for the Verve Metro District. There are a number of tracts of land left over from the development of the Verve, and so that those tracts of land are going to be developed and they would be still owned by the county, but maintained by the Metro District. And so what this agreement does is it establishes a relationship where the Metro District would do things like mowing or pavement maintenance outside of the road itself and slope maintenance and things like that. The county still owns the ground, but the improvements are Metro District. Ben, you're here. Do you have any additional comments, Brian?
Just all those kind of basic maintenance items we covered.
And then staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners support the Verve Maintenance District with Metro District and put it on a future hearing.
Andy's looking at the map as we speak. Any questions or are you in support?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm in support. Just out of curiosity, so let's just take the maintenance of mowing the grass. In a situation like this, does one entity usually have a contract with the other to actually do it, even though like along the boundary right there, the diagonal cut across there.
Calendar Drive.
Is that Sim? Okay.
Yeah, that text says FAA non-aeronautical release and then the boundary there right above the right away.
Yeah, right there. That, I mean, one entity doesn't hire someone to mow the grass just in the red area. The other entity hires someone to mow the grass just in the blue. Is it typically combined somehow?
So in this image, what you're looking at is county maintenance responsibilities, and that is going to be all roadway pavement area that we're maintaining and road and bridge. The blue areas, and then some median areas are areas, and even some of the walkways are maintained by the Metropolitan District.
Okay.
Here, there's some outlier parcels we're trying to identify that aren't necessarily captured in an agreement. And so this is kind of the residual components of the owned but be maintained by the district. And so for the most part, the Metro District's doing everything you see that's not owned by a private entity, except we're doing the actual pavement area. And
Okay.
that's it.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Great.
You're welcome.
3 thumbs up.
Thank you.
And then next we have the water supply planning.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Welcome. Good to see you. Hi, Heather. Hi, Chris.
Hey, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Today is for discussion and/or board direction, and it includes the topic of water planning. As you know, there's been a few different bills that touch on water requirements for counties in their comprehensive plans. And then, of course, in House Bill 1313, some elements on density requirements that we need to be aware of, some water components as well, to make sure we can meet the demands or come up with some other alternative density allowances there, but by no less than 15 units per acre. And so we wanted to come to you and share kind of where we are with these different elements, some timeframes, and then our approach, how we're going to get there. Many of these requirements for water are not required to be completed for at least 18 months, but some have incremental components that we have to submit to the state beginning as early as June 30th. So we wanted to share some general information about the 50 plus water providers that we'll be working with to finalize this part of the water planning. Because not all the guidance has been released, and especially since it hadn't been contemplated when we first started together, Jeffco, not all of these items are going to be fully vetted within our comprehensive plan update, but we skeletal components and guidance within those draft plans so that we can include further analysis and planning in subsequent updates in the comp plan, which again, probably won't happen for another 18 months or so. I'll turn it over to Heather and Chris to walk us through the presentation, and happy to have a more in-depth conversation about this if you choose, but this is mostly for FYI.
Yeah, thank you. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So we're going to be talking about 2 recent bills that went through state legislation to talk about water supply planning. The interesting thing is they weren't directly talking about water supply planning. They were kind of incorporated into bills that related to housing, and especially affordable housing. And they both touched on water supply, one on a broader level throughout the entire county, and then another more in focused areas. So we're just going to kind of go through some of those details. So Senate Bill 24-174, and I have to apologize, I meant to put the name of it on the slides as well, but I ended up, looks like I just put it in the briefing paper. That was housing needs planning. And
Which in full disclosure was my bill, just so everybody knows.
And in that, it mainly, like I said, mainly focuses on affordable housing, developing a housing needs assessment, and evaluating displacement risk. But it also talks about having both municipalities and counties incorporate water supply as an element into the comprehensive plans. Now, before, there were only a few things that are required to be put into comprehensive plans. So this is a new requirement. It's actually amazing how many things are just suggested and not required. So water supply is something that the county has had in our plans for a long time, dating back to, I want to say 1985, the very first plan that I saw that included some mention of water. It may not have specifically said water supply, but it would definitely talk about water quantity and quality and had goals and policies related to that because it is a huge topic in Jefferson County.
Could I interject real quick? So in conversations around this particular aspect of water, it was going to be its own bill. wanted just the focus to be on the water, and it was going to include mandates as well as a lot of specific requirements. And in order to get away from that and to make it more general, more aspirational, more this is good planning and you should do it, but we're not going to tell you how to do it. We convinced them to wrap it into this bill so that it would be more part of the planning process versus its own version of 1313, which is what it was going to be at the beginning of session. So those conversations sort of evolved and became part of the planning process in order to larger mandate that we knew was coming down the pike. So
Thank you.
That's
Context.
context. Thank you. Good to know. Good to know. So then what was put into the legislation that needs to be included in this water supply element is that the county or the jurisdictions need to consult and coordinate with local water providers. As Val mentioned, we have over 50 water providers in Jefferson County that we're going to need to start working with. We need to include water conservation policies. We need to have an estimate of a range of water supplies and facilities needed to support the potential development described in the comprehensive plan. So with those three things, DOLA has created a dedicated website for water and land use integration, and we are still kind of exploring that. It's a great resource, but we do need to add a water supply element specifically to our master plan no later than December 31st, 2026. Then I'm going to jump into House Bill 1313, which is also on this side, the other side of the screen. And this kind of takes a more focused look at water supply. 1313 is the State Land Use Criteria for Strategic Growth Act, or as I think of it, the Transit-Oriented Communities Act, where the state is requiring that the county look at certain transit areas and increase densities around those areas. We're going to have a whole nother briefing in June, on June 10th, to talk about that bill in more detail and the density requirements. But I just wanted to note today that this is another act that specifically talks about how the county needs to work with the water providers in these transit-oriented community areas to determine if there's adequate supply. Because if there is not adequate supply, then we need to file a report that states that we do not have adequate supply and that we need an exemption of some of those density requirements.
And full disclosure, that was my amendment to this bill because the original bill did not include that. It was just going to make you implement it without any considerations with regard to whether you had enough water supply. And as part of this, it also involves an exception, a granting of an exception clause, so that if we cannot provide enough water, and if we can demonstrate it through our water planning as it relates to our comprehensive plan, then we wouldn't be forced into a situation where we are increasing density but can't provide the water to support it. So that was also me, and I'm sorry.
So you had a hand in both of these.
Not in 1313 specifically, because I actually opposed that bill. But that amendment to the bill, this component that you're talking about as it relates to water, was me.
Okay.
So,
Great. Thank you.
so you know, context again.
And then on to the next slide, we're going to talk about what the county is doing to work towards meeting these requirements. I know that there was an executive order signed last week talking about how the county needs to comply. Jurisdictions throughout the state need to comply, or else we will not be eligible for grant funding. We were already going to comply with these, but that does kind of put a little bit more fire under us. With the water supply component, what we have been doing with the Together Jeffco process is making sure that we have the framework. Like Abel said, it wasn't anticipated when we first started the Together Jeffco project, but we did add a water supply element with a goal and some policies. And then throughout the next year, until the end of 2026. We will fill that out through staff processes. We may need to look through all of the guidance and determine whether or not we're going to need a request for additional funding for a consultant, but we still need to work through that at this point in time. On a good news point, we do already have water conservation policies. Back in 2020, the county updated our comprehensive plan with a specific focus on water. And we specifically added 15 water conservation policies. That is a requirement that needs to be met by July 1st of this year. We already have those in there, so we're doing good on that front.
Are you ready to go to the next slide? If so, I'll jump in and talk about Lookout Mountain.
I wasn't quite ready to go into the deadline slide yet. I was going to talk about 1313 and also what we're going to do for 174 a little bit more. With the full draft of the comprehensive plan, we are anticipating on doing a focused email to all of our water providers to say, hey, there is this legislation. Hopefully they already know about it, but there is this legislation and we need to be coordinating with you. Please look at the land use recommendations in the master plan and let us start thinking about whether you think about that water supply for these proposed land uses.
Yeah, this is such a huge, as we all know, this is such a huge issue for our constituents. And Chris has probably gotten a couple of emails from me just this year alone on how we measure water availability through our current comprehensive master plan. And even during yesterday's town hall, Andy fielded a question about water availability and how we.
Well,
you're great.
I wish I had this.
I was thinking the same thing. This would have been really helpful. But I think that it really speaks to me in terms of really thinking about bringing back the chart that we had with these pressing issues, which I also think would be helpful for town halls, and communicating with one clear voice with the most relevant, timely information about water availability, which then also factors into climate change, wildfire, growth and development, and so much more. And I think having those kinds of talking points at the tip of our fingers for a whole host of community meetings, town halls, and more, even when we're in a board hearing, is particularly helpful. But I really appreciate the work you're doing on this front too. Yes,
So,
Commissioner Zenzinger.
So I mentioned this in my report this morning about very specifically the lawsuit that's coming forward on the part of the municipalities, and it's over this. It's over 1313, and very specifically, I have 3 articles here where we have quotes from 3 communities right here in Jefferson County about this issue, and that is Arvada, Westminster, and Littleton. All 3 communities have been on the record demonstrating that they're not in opposition to affordable housing. What they are concerned about is being forced into a situation where we cannot supply water, or that we can't address the growth adequately because of a constraint on our resources. And in particular, when I was preparing for the Colorado Cooperation conference on Friday, I had asked your department if you could provide me with some information about how we are going to go about implementing 1313 here in Jefferson County. And the statistic that jumped out to me the most is this one where you say that Jeffco, and this is preliminary, by the way, but that Jeffco requires Jeffco and others to proactively zone certain transit areas for higher densities, and that preliminary analysis indicates that approximately 1,500 acres of land in Jeffco would be required to have a minimum of 15 units per acre, with an average of 40 units per acre in unincorporated Jeffco. And that could mean 60,000 more residential units and a population increase of 150,000 people per unit. If the market can build what the state is trying to achieve. And so the reference point that you gave me is that population, 150,000, is equivalent to adding the 6th largest city in Colorado, which is the city of Lakewood, into unincorporated areas of Jefferson County. And so that is very concerning when you start to think about resources and being able to accommodate the infrastructure that is going to be expected to accommodate that kind of a growth. I mean, we're talking sidewalks and roads and bridges and culverts and water and energy and so on and so forth. So I think this is very timely. This is the concern that is being brought forward by these communities right now. It's a very timely topic. And again, not because there is a resistance to affordable housing, because we've just adopted a 15-year strategic housing plan. And I think we are very committed to that plan personally, so that we can address affordability. We've signed on to the Jeffco blueprint, for example. So I just want to get it on the record, and I'm going to probably be a broken record about this because I keep on saying it with every opportunity that I can, because I am afraid that the narrative is being lost somehow. That we are being told that we don't care about affordable housing, that we're just digging in our heels and being obstinate, when that's not true. We're trying right now to be proactive to comply with the regulations. We are trying our darndest to figure out how we're going to implement these things. But how we get there matters. And so I really appreciate you bringing this forward.
Absolutely. I want to mention too that we invited several of our water and sanitation districts to Together Jeffco proceedings, meetings, discussions. And so they've been involved with our comprehensive plan update, but not specifically on these bills. And so that's why we intend on approaching them to continue the conversation. As we know, water is a marketable commodity. And with all of the need that will be driven by the density requirements in this bill, you know, I can only imagine water prices will go up on that market. Also, you know, we need to look and put into perspective the Colorado State Water Plan and all of the other diversion projects that bring water from the west slope to the Front Range, which of course is an issue as well. All of those things become a regional issue, a statewide issue. So it'd be nice to be able to have planning in place with all of the counties to see how all of those things merge and come together. I think that'll speak towards more of the need. I also want to comment that Arapahoe County and Adams County both have really good plans that they've created in the last few years that are good models for us that use existing resources. But as Heather mentioned, we're looking at those plans to see if we can pull that information together or if we'll need some assistance. And so we're still looking into that to see what that might look like.
I have a question about whether or not you feel that the lawsuit that is happening around the Gross Reservoir is going to impact Jefferson County in any way. I know that it is going to impact Arvada specifically and their relationship with Denver Water. Do you anticipate having any impacts here in Jeffco?
So I think, you know, many water districts in the region get their water from Denver. And so some of our water and sanitation districts do that as well. We haven't heard anything specific about water supply being dramatically impacted. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to get water through water court and adjudicate those rights from agricultural or other uses to municipal use. It just means it might be more expensive because you have more folks going after that limited supply. But so far, no known issues, but certainly if there are, we plan to hear about that when we convene the water districts.
This is probably a good time for me to jump in too. I wanted to talk to you about Lookout Mountain Water District in particular. That district reached out to the county in January. We met with them in February just to hear what their situation is and what's going on. A couple of things to emphasize. One, and Commissioner Zenzinger, you started talking about this, that there's two issues. I mean, there is water availability issues. You asked about Gross Reservoir. I think Denver Water is confident that they've got water availability enough for the metro area for a long time. Infrastructure is also a big problem, and that's the issue that Lookout Mountain came to talk about. They've got infrastructure needs. Their infrastructure is aging. It's failing in some regards, and they're looking for help. We talked to them about our strategic growth planning. I think they're excited about it. The quote that I got from one of their board members was that although water districts are careful to guard their water rights and might be at odds with each other, there are many areas where they're willing to cooperate. So I think future planning is an area where Lookout Mountain and the rest of our districts will be willing to cooperate. And all of us should say, and you all know this too, we have a lot of water districts, a lot of coordination has to happen, and growth may be different depending on what water district you are in.
Yeah.
Great.
And
I just want to do a quick time check. We've got 5 to 10 minutes left for this portion. I know we've got some other folks waiting as well. So any other questions or comments?
yeah, so I think another misperception in the public is that the county directs these things. And we don't. We partner, we stay abreast, we co-plan, but we don't direct these things. This is very much within the authority of the water districts and so on and so forth. So, that's another area of the planning process that I think is a mystery for a lot of people, in particular because it's counter to how we plan cities, right? There's just a difference there. So I appreciate you bringing this forward and helping to educate a little bit.
Absolutely.
Which is,
Yes, Commissioner Kerr.
which is actually a point I got right yesterday as
Yes.
I answered that. I
Exactly.
mentioned that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to wrap up with the next slide with some deadlines that are up and coming. I know that they were mentioned throughout the briefing today, but basically December 31st, 2026 is a big date for both of these bills. For 174, the water supply element must be included in the plan that meets all of those requirements by that date. And then for 1313, our preliminary housing opportunity goal report is due to the state on June 30th. Like I said, we're going to be coming back to you on June 10th to talk more about that and what work has been done, because we did have those preliminary numbers. We're seeing if those are going to be refined a little bit more with some additional exemptions that we're looking at. And then December 31st, 2026, again, is it's a big date. A lot of things going on then. Our final housing opportunity goal report and our transit center report is due to the state. So that's when we have to identify areas where we're going to have increased density. And then December 31st, 2027 is when we have to identify the final transit centers, and we have to have zoning in place to meet the housing opportunity goal, or the HOG. And that means that at that point we will have to have rezoned these areas or created an overlay district in order to meet the state requirements.
So I'm going to have a question for a lawyer. So given that the lawsuits are very specifically about 1313, not 174, I will point out, but for 1313, does that mean that there might be a preliminary stay on the requirements of local governments moving forward with those hard and fast deadlines until the outcome of that? Or are we going to have to keep on planning as if it's going to happen during the legal challenge?
So two things. One, I haven't fully analyzed the lawsuit, but it's my understanding it's just filed by home rule jurisdictions and it would apply narrowly to them. So it's not going to impact any of our planning on this. We have to continue going forward. As it relates to them, parties could ask for a temporary injunction or preliminary injunction to stay that. But if that hasn't been filed, again, I haven't pulled all of it. I've just seen what was in the litigation. I mean, in the newspaper report on the litigation. But again, I don't think that as it's currently filed, it impacts us at all. So we have to continue planning.
And I'll just point out too, one of the positive parts about this is we have to zone to allow it. Doesn't mean the market will develop it. And developers are required to bring proof of water to the water district itself. So they have to make sure that either the water district can provide it or they bring the water to the district to provide it for them. And so that's all built into the standard development review process across the region, which I think there's some balancing there that happens. But certainly all the pressure on water needs, like I mentioned, is just going to make those utilities go up. And when we talk about affordability, we want to make sure we keep those costs as low as possible.
Great. We're going to have to leave it here if that's all right.
Yeah.
Good feedback, and thank you for the presentation as well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
More to come.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we're going to move next to our commissioner reports, and I'll turn to Commissioner Zenzinger first to see if there are any updates you have at this time on the board.
No, I think I said a lot today in my report earlier related to this topic, so it's good.
Okey-doke. Thank you. Commissioner Kerr?
Yeah, two. I'm scheduled for two. Court Services Advisory Board met last week at some point. We didn't have a quorum, so we weren't actually able to do the work. We got some reports discussing some of the pre-trial services, I believe, but we didn't actually take any votes or anything. And then my other report out scheduled is Mile High Flood District, which I've talked about our tour. And, you know, I passed this comment along to the executive director of Mile High Flood District on our tour. But when we were at Deer Creek, the partial reopening of Deer Creek Canyon Park, and I mentioned that I was going on this tour, our executive director of open space made the comment to me that Mile High Flood District was one of his favorite organizations to work with because they don't mind getting their hands dirty. They actually want to do the things that a lot of other entities shy away from. And so I pass that along. But the more I learn about Mile High Flood District, the more I understand how important they are for our community, and that they have a really, really good reputation in doing good work. So just wanted to mention that. I don't think I have anything else.
Okie doke. Great, thank you. And I had EDC Admin Committee on my list, but I think I tackled much of what I tackled today. And that is, as we know, Jansen Tidmore is stepping down as EDC chair to accept a new position in another part of the state, heading up another economic development corporation. And we wish him all the best. He's been a terrific leader and was proud to be on the hiring committee 5 years ago that brought him to Jefferson County. And serving on the admin committee will also work with the hiring team this round. The new job description should be published. If I'm not mistaken, I think it went live on Monday, but we'll talk more about that as well at the EDC Board of Directors meeting tomorrow. But we've got a good team together, clear next steps and a timeline. Jansen will stay for the next 60 days, which is a huge gift. So hopefully we'll be able to hire within that time frame and then transition that new chair. I wanted to just give you one quick heads up, nothing for us to determine right now, but I had received an email from a constituent regarding sales tax in Jeffco. We do have some sales tax in Jeffco, and a concern that was expressed by the constituent that the county applies the sales tax to groceries. And what's interesting is Dan did some additional work, and I really want to thank Dan for digging in so we could provide some accurate information to the constituent, and that constituent is right. But one thing Dan also found is that we're one of just a very few number of counties who still charge sales tax on groceries. And it may be something as a board that we want to look at. And I did ask Dan to forward that information to commissioners. I wanted to make sure you received it. If you didn't, please let Sarah know, and she'll get that from Dan. And that might be something we want to take a look at down the road. And then I will plan on providing the latest update on the Boys and Girls Club next week. I just want to kind of pull together some thoughts to share with you. We did meet, just so you know, a third meeting with Boys and Girls Club and the City of Lakewood, as well as the school district and some community leaders about some potential next steps and some ideas. So more to come on that front. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have nothing to share this morning other than what I'd already shared in the board hearing.
Okay, perfect. We'll go to Kim next.
Just a reminder, I will be out on PTO, but we don't have hearings next week, and Carrie Markle will be acting county attorney in my absence, will be on my email. And then I don't have any county attorney reports, but we do have exec session if you'd like me to go ahead and tee up that motion.
Great.
Could I please have a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Ulrich? Ulrich. Okay, I did butcher it. Versus Jefferson County for purposes of legal advice under CRS 246402-4B and advice to negotiators under 4E. And then we have several notices of claims that we are going to be discussing with you guys for legal advice and advice to negotiators under the same statutory provisions, but it's Schroeder, Wolf, Adkins, and Brasher notices of claims.
Motion.
I move to go into executive session for the reasons outlined by the county attorney.
Second.